Hey, here with Eli Crane on the battlefield to the boardroom, where we share war stories about what it is like to go out, to come back, to live the deployed experience. And the whole idea is that we want to connect with veterans and let them know that their stories matter. We can give a voice to them. You get an opportunity, share with the world. Anybody watching this this video recording, we're recording live, but we'll post this up on the battlefield to the boardroom group, and you can find it on social media there. Eli, thank you for coming with us. You are actually only the second Navy guy we've had on the show. Been a pretty Marine-only program up until now.
You'll have to take it easy on me.
Yeah, well, as long as we don't have to do like a push-up competition, I'm getting to be an old man. But you tell us a little bit about where you're. Obviously CEO of Bottle Breacher. You can talk about that, but who'd you serve with? And man, I'd love to hear a story from a SEAL perspective about a deployment or a deployment you did with the Navy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did most of my Navy career with SEAL Team 3. I did 3 combat pumps with them in 2006, 2008, and 2010. Before that, I was a gunner's mate on the USS Gettysburg because I didn't make it through SEAL training my first time. And then I rounded out and finished off my career at the recruiting directorate for about a year and a half, from about 10 to 12. And then from 12 to 14, I was with NSW Group 1 MAROPS, doing some VBSS instructing. So that's kind of a broad strokes of my career. And, just blessed and fortunate to have even got to serve in the company of guys that I got to serve with. Learned a lot from them, laughed a lot and, cried a little bit too, but, it's all good. I wouldn't change it for anything. And, I'm proud to have gotten to do what I got to do.
Yeah. No, good stuff. So as you talk about deploying overseas with these guys, anything come to mind? Like, we're always looking to capture that moment where you're standing around the campfire, and the rest of the world can listen in and just hear your tale. Even if it's a gross exaggeration, you'll get called out on it later, I guess. But, what's it like being out there with the teams?
It's good, man. It's always, honestly, it's usually pretty hysterical. I mean, just some of the funniest guys. I'm sure you know the deal. Marines are the same way. Never a dull moment. Never a time. You don't start worrying about the guys until they quit talking crap to each other. I had leaders that said that. We never worried about the guys as long as they were complaining and bitching and giving each other a hard time. They were good to go. One of my favorite stories is. It was actually a time in training where I was going through, we were going through land nav up at, I think it was Mount Laguna by San Diego. And it was funny because we started at 8 a.m. and I had like 8 or 10 points that I had to hit throughout the day. And I started at my first point. I think it was a point called like Horse Haven or something. And I walked for like 45 minutes, found the general area I was supposed to be for. And I started looking for this point that I was supposed to find. Didn't find it. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to move on to the next one because we were on the clock. And I was like, you know what, but I really got to use the restroom. So I found a fence pole, and I'd never tried this method before, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to hold on to this fence pole and I'm going to bend over. I'm going to take a big crap right here. Now I was trying to stay incognito out, not in the beaten zone. Cause if I would have gotten seen doing that, I would have been in a lot of trouble and I would have paid the man. So I was trying to be sneaky about it. Right. And, I did my thing. And then I got all my wet wipes out, my toilet paper out of my bag, out of my ruck. And, I was ready to go. I was prepared to knock this thing out and get back on the move and find my other point. Well, as I'm pulling my pants up and moving out, I'm like, kind of stinks. I wonder what's going on. And a couple seconds later, I realized that I didn't hit my drop zone. And I'd actually bombed in my pants, and then I pulled my pants up and secured them back around my waist. So now I've got this huge mess to deal with. I'm out in the middle of a field now with just using all my wet wipes, and I'm like, man, if the instructors come by and see this shit show, I'm in big trouble. And it was funny because I totally bombed the rest of that day. I ended up, having to rip part of my T-shirt off to use it as toilet paper to clean up the mess. It was just a total catastrophe. failed the entire day, got my butt kicked because I missed all my, I didn't pass the day.
Right.
But the best part about it was when I shared the story with my brothers after the fact, after getting my ass whooped, we all roared and laughed about it for probably a good half an hour. And just the fact that I was able to, that was a big testing day for us. A couple guys actually got sent home. And the fact that I was able to, help them blow off some steam and we were able to laugh about it was kind of, just one of my favorite stories about the teams.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how many good stories involve some sort of evacuation of bodily fluids. So, well done you. I guess you must have passed it because you got through it all. So that's great.
On the second try.
What's
on
that?
The second,
on the second
only
try?
On the second
okay.
try. Yeah, I was never a first time every time guy. I was more the knucklehead that had to get my butt whooped and then come back and try again.
Look, man, you're running a killer business right now, and I gotta imagine that lesson means something there too. I mean, it's not about being, the superstar who gets high fives and slapped on the butt and back to the locker room. It's about just grinding and putting the effort in every day.
Yeah, that is I've noticed that's one of the biggest things that separates the winners from the losers is just resiliency, but learning to look at failure completely opposite from how everybody else looks at it. A lot of successful people I found take failure and they look at it as that's where the gold in life is. That's where the real lessons learned are, and don't avoid it. Just welcome it. And if you're failing, that means you're actually getting outside your comfort zone. You're swinging for the fences and you're going big. So
yeah,
it's all good.
That's cool, man. Well, congratulations on getting through. Welcome home. I know you mentioned you got a couple deployments out there in 06 and beyond. I'm sure we chewed some of the same dirt. It's kind of cool having the Navy on. I got to tell you, there's two things I saw about you recently that I liked. The first, you put a post on LinkedIn so people see your followings about how you sold your chopper to kick your business off. Have you recovered the chopper since then? Are things going well enough that you can get a new bike, or is that thing gone?
Yeah, things are going well enough to get a new bike. I haven't replaced it. I'm still looking for that perfect bike, but that's one thing. My viewpoint on my viewpoint kind of changed financially when I started this business, and I realized if you ever get a chance to read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, he talks a lot about how the wealthy become wealthy, and they become wealthy by buying assets, not liabilities. And that's something that most of us aren't taught as youngsters. We're not taught that in school. Most of us, we make money and then we spend it on, stuff that we enjoy doing or like doing, or more importantly, liabilities, things that cost us money. And so I've kind of gotten to the point where it's, even though we do pretty well, my focus has shifted more towards trying to grow my business and buy assets or things that I think and hope are going to make me more money. And so the chopper, we could pull the trigger on that. And I'm not saying, put everything off until retirement and don't enjoy life. All I'm saying is, my thought process has kind of changed a little bit on that.
Yeah. Well, the toys, they achieve less over time. Hey, the other question then was, you were involved with the program. I believe it's Long Live Veteran Brotherhood. I see the LLVB thing. Yep. Can you talk about that at all? Is that cool?
Yeah. So we started a program called LLVB, Long Live the Veteran Brotherhood. We had a saying in the SEAL teams, Long Live the Brotherhood, LLTB. And I love that saying. It meant a lot to me. I know it means a lot to a lot of guys from our community. And I was kind of disappointed when I realized, when I got out and realized the veterans in general didn't have a rallying cry, kind of a slogan or a motto that united the clans, regardless of whether you were from the Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marine Corps. And it's actually the veteran community is a much bigger group than the SEAL teams, and it's a much more powerful group. And I've also noticed that as I got out, a lot of times I've noticed veterans, unfortunately, spend a lot of their time competing with one another, and in some cases, extreme cases, stepping on one another and bad mouthing each other. And I just see it, and it really disappoints me. And I wanted to do something, try to do something, start something, a movement where of unity for our community, and just unite everyone around this idea that, hey, if we if we spend half the time encouraging and lifting each other up, the veteran population wouldn't have half the problems and the struggles that we have. And so that's what LLVB is all about.
I like it, man. And for those of you watching, I mean, here's a testament to it. I don't actually know Eli. We've never met. We met on social media, and he accepted the interview offer, kind of sight unseen, knowing nothing about me. So I appreciate that, and I think that proves the point of what you're talking about with LLVB. And I like to remind people, Marine Corps and the SEALs, it's an amphibious fighting force. And what that means to me is that we've got a beachhead on the soul of every other Marine and every veteran out there. And that beachhead means something. You get 5 minutes, and you get the introduction and you help each other out. And if it makes sense, you keep doing it. And if it doesn't make sense, you stop. But you get that toehold on the beach, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing
what it's worth. Great to meet you. Happy to be connected on a couple different platforms here. We'll get this does a bear shit in the woods story put out. So thank you for sharing that. My favorite SEAL interaction involved busting some people's chops on a bridge into Baghdad in the middle of a firefight. They were lost. I helped them. Yeah, is kind of what it narrowed down to.
Doesn't surprise me.
But that is a time for another video and another good time. So I'll share that later.
All right, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
No worries.